yet the names of the parsha seem to contradict the content of the parsha. Yefet, Tazria is a positive thing, Geula, whereas the whole parsha is about tzaras. Metzora is seemingly something negative, and yet the whole parsha is about Tara. Okay, the name of the parsha is Metzora. Fourth question?
Why are we talking about and asking about the name of Mashiach?
Not why we're asking about the name. Why is the name of Mashiach shaykh to the union of Tzaras? What's the connection of Mashiach to Tzaras? Why are we asking for the name of Mashiach? That the Rebbe didn't ask. The Gemara just asks, what's the name?
Why is it relevant?
Not why is it relevant. What's the connection of Mashiach to the union of Tzaras? That was the fourth question. Okay? In order to understand that, the Rebbe quotes the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe explains the pasuk Adam ki yiyeh ba'er b'sarei nega v'chulei, and explains that this nega is shayach dafka to an Adam, someone who's on a very high level. Do you have a copy?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, no, someone who's on a very high level, and only on what the Rebbe refers to as seif levushim, only on the very extremities of his garments, meaning not only just his basar, which is a part of him that can change a little more, a little less, depending on how much weight he's put on and weight taken off, right? So it can change, but not only that, which is obviously not a completely essential part of him to the extent that it changes. The skin of the flesh, the extremity of the extremity, the chitzain of the chitzain, the chitzainis of the chitzainis. That's the level at which is afflicted by the tzaras. Right? That's what the Rebbe taught us from the Alter Rebbe in Ois Daled on page 155. That's where we got to. We got to the last paragraph in Ois Daled. And the last thing Rebbe said is also just a nega, just touches. V'oid ve'ikr, and furthermore, and this is essential, right, the last paragraph before A, kefisha meisif b'lekutei Torah, that the pnimius, what? Gam negoyim, devarim gevoyim him, something very lofty, meaning it's short, it's shorish in kedusha, it's shorish in holiness, it's something very, very lofty. She'ena nikra tameh is also very, very interesting about the Metzora. She'ena nikra tameh ad sheyikra'enu akayin tameh. Meaning, even if a person has the signs of tzaras, he's not tameh until a kohen calls him tameh. So what does that mean? That means there's a level in which there isn't some essential tumah. There's a tumah as a result of the fact that the kohen, you've seen a kohen and not a Talmid Chacham, not the Rav, but the kohen is the one who decides that he's tameh. And what's the nafkamina? I mean, he's tameh. So if he has to call the kohen, and the kohen will say, "You're tameh." No, not always. What if he just got married? Sheva brachas. Kohen doesn't call him tameh for the next week. Meaning, on a certain level, he isn't. I mean, he isn't. I mean, right on a very simple level, he's not. But somehow this nega, this tumah, is a very interesting tumah to the extent that it's not essential, because after all, if someone's tameh meis, so there's tameh meis, and what are you going to do? And what happens to everything they came in contact between the time they came in contact with the dead body and the time the Rav finds out that they came in contact and says, yes, you're tameh meis, everything's tameh. Everything that he encountered since he encountered the dead body. Right, even if no one paskened that's what he is, right? He didn't know yet. Okay, Seder, now he knows. So that means everything that happened in the last week he's affected things over the last week. By tzaras, not the case at all. It's not tameh until the kohen says he's tameh, and there will be times when the kohen will not say that until a later date. And the classic example is a chassan or a kala.
How would you exactly translate the Tinakashic Kedusha?
We haven't got there yet.
We have. Oh,
Did we?
never mind. Maybe not. Sorry.
I don't think so. I don't think we got it. I don't remember reading those words yet. V'gam negoyim devarim gevesa. We'll see. It's going to be very exciting when I hit them and how I'm going to translate them. It's going to be a very exciting moment. Oh, there, at the bottom of this paragraph.
Rabbi,
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What happens to the wife afterwards when the Kohen declares he's a...
So then they can't. He's tameh, so he has to be away from everybody. She's in no way, shape, or form tameh by virtue of the fact that she had anything to do with him in the time before he was declared. Okay. He's not tameh.
Okay.
He's not tameh in any way, shape, or form. Everybody can have anything they want to do with this guy, right? He's around, he's in the house, he's touching stuff. He's not tamei until the Kohen says he is. So the Kohen will wait.
So he's just not impure, like he just doesn't possess that quality.
Does not possess that quality.
That's also the time period before the Kohen comes when you take everything out of your house, right?
Also that by the when it comes to the house, right? Before the Kohen comes, so you take everything out. Whereas if a mace is found in your house, so you don't take everything out of the house before the rabbi comes and says that there's a mace in your house and the house is tamei. Everything in the house is tamei, right? Another point, well said, right? Whereas relative to a house that has tzaras, so there's signs of tzaras, the Rav will come and look, right? The Rav is also going to look. The Rav might tell the Kohen, right? Lavdafka, the Kohen knows the halachas as well as the Rav knows the halachas. So the Rav will look, right? And say, you know what, this is a problem. I'm going to get the Kohen, but a good idea, empty your house of everything so none of it will be tamei, because once the Kohen says it is, it is. Then we're going to have to break down the wall. And what will we find? All sorts of jewels, all sorts of good stuff. It's hidden in the walls. It's Rashi and Chumash, right? I know Rashi and Chumash, everybody here has an allergy to Rashi and Chumash, but it is Rashi and Chumash.
It's downtown Judaism.
It's downtown Judaism, right? Portage and Maine. She'eina nikra tamei ad sheyikra'enu hakohen tamei. It's not called tamei. He's not tamei until the Kohen calls him tamei. Ukeshadayin lo yikara lo shem tamei. And when he has not yet called him that name, eina negoyim b'chlal tuma. He's not in the state of tuma in any way, shape, or form. That's a Mishnah. It's paskin halacha. Ela adarabah. The opposite is true. In essence, what is the tuma of the? What is the reality of the nega? Him eres el yonim, very lofty levels of godly light. But what? When they come down into Elam Hazeh, so they express themselves in a negative way. Right? And what does that mean? That means Rakshem Dina Kasha de Kedusha, a severe din of Kedusha, which means it might not be able to be expressed positively in Elam Hazeh, but its source is a very high level of Kedusha. Right? But Dina Kasha means a severe din, a severe judgment. Right? But meaning in its source, it's a very powerful level of godly reality. But there are powerful forces that aren't necessarily negative, but since they're so powerful, they can't be expressed positively, they can't be expressed successfully in kelim, in vessels, therefore they'll express themselves in a negative way. The simplest example is the power of children's emotions. Children emote much more powerfully than adults. Why? Their emotions are less tempered by intellect. And adults' emotions are tempered by intellect, so their emotions are much more even-keeled. They don't get so high and they don't get so low. They're able to deal with something positive in a mature and reasonable way. That doesn't mean they don't get excited. They're excited, they're very happy. I mean, the only time adults evidently become children is at sporting events. But other than that, they tend to behave themselves if they're an adult. So right, okay. So there'll be a certain even keel, not too high, not too low. A child when he's happy, so bouncing off the walls. A child when he's upset, the world just came to an end. Right? A child also, if a child has to deal with a tragedy, he doesn't have the kelim to deal with it. He's going to have to figure out how to deal with that when he grows up and somehow figure out where to put it. As a child, just doesn't have the kelim for it. It's very, very powerful energy that he can't internalize. An adult should be able to deal with that. That doesn't mean he wants to, but he should. The passing of a loved one, well, adults have to deal with that. That's what part of being in Golus is. Do we want to end Golus? Yes, we want to end Golus. Then loved ones won't pass away, but in the meantime, they might. Right? And so an adult deals with that. It's not that it's easy. And it's not for us to tell the adult how to deal with it, but the adult can deal with it. A child, much more difficult. They don't have the kelim. The kli to deal with the emotion is called intellect.
So, the concept there where the judgment, the harsh judgments of such a high level can only manifest negatively, is that why the Tzaras isn't inherently tamei?
Also, if that, 100%. V'yesh leimar, shebeis in inyanim elu. These two ideas, what are they? So the Rebbe is kind to us and says this. He doesn't expect us to remember what we just read, which is very kind. Shebeis inyanim elu. That what? Shenegoyim heim rak pseilas. They are only the the refuse shebesoif levushav, at the external expressions of his garments, like we said, the basare, bechitzonius, the most external way, shedayin lo nizbara, that hasn't yet been rectified. In other words, he's brought about tremendous rectification. He's an Adam le'elyer. I'll be likened to that which is above, right? But there's certain aspects that have not yet been rectified, and therefore they'll express themselves in a negative way. V'heim devar and the devarim, and that's the first aspect, and the fact that they'im devarim gevayim eres elyonim in yonim hafchim l'chorda, that seems to be something opposite. On one hand, it's psilus, it's refuse, it's something negative that expresses itself negatively. I understand only in a very external way, but it's still external and negative. And yet we see that the true source of it is a very, very high level. Ultimately, these two ideas, which might seem contrary one to the other, Tluyim Zeh are ultimately dependent on each other, which is what Moshe just said. That since Negoyim are in essence a very high level of godly light, Eres El Yonim, right? Now, the Rebbe hasn't said it yet. What level of reality has extremely powerful light that because it can't be expressed properly produces something negative? What's that reality called? We've talked about it. It's come up. Okay, but that was from here.
The chaos.
Let me tell you. Right? Let me tell you. World of chaos. What's let me tell you? What happens in what event happens in Eilam Atayu? Famous event. It's pop Kabbalah already. What's the famous event? The shattering of the vessels. Sounds so good. I mean, what Hollywood star wouldn't want to be into shattering of the vessels? Right, okay. So I'm sure they all learn it. Shattering of the vessels. I mean, what happens? The kli is not powerful enough to contain the light, so it breaks. That's a child's emotional state, right? Often. Right? The kli is not powerful enough to contain the light, so it breaks and brings about an external expression of something undesirable. It's the source of everything undesirable in the world. So what do you see? You don't see the shell. You don't see the external reality, not the penis, not the internal reality. You don't see what the thing is really part of. You don't see the big picture. You just see little sound bites, little pieces of reality. Right? Shvir Sekelim, an example of Shvir Sekelim, a puzzle. Right? Well, actually, how about the words that we did before? We're not looking at a puzzle. We're looking at words on a page, and your page is actually a picture of a page. Okay, so that picture of the page, which I'm not going to do to this book, but you could do this conceptually to your page. Take a pair of scissors and cut in between each line. Then take a pair of scissors and cut in between each letter. Right? Now you can even cut the letters up, but we're not going to do that. Okay? Fine. So what have you got on the table?
A bunch of letters.
Bunch of letters. Okay. You pick up a letter. What does it say?
Aleph.
I'm an Aleph. That's what it says. Now, really, in a state of tikkun, in a state of fixedness, that Aleph is part of a word, and that word is part of a sentence, and that sentence is part of an idea. So if I were to ask you what's on this page, you would tell me the ideas on this page. What's the vehicle for revealing this idea? The kalim. What are the kalim called? They're called osius, letters. This is written letters. There's letters of thought, letters of speech. These are written letters. Okay, so these, I mean, they're all the same letters, right? But they just express themselves in different ways. How children think when they're first born is hard for us to understand. Right? They don't have letters to think with. I guess some images, but that's why at some point they smile when they see you. But okay, exactly how they think is people with newborns are always wondering like what's going on in there. How does it work? Okay, before you develop a language, how do you think? Okay, but we think in a language. Might think in 2 languages, might think in 3 languages. It depends on the person. Okay, but what are those languages? Those languages are all exactly the same. We're thinking in osius. We're thinking in letters. Those letters can be in thought. Those letters can be in speech. And those letters can be written down on a page. So now we're talking about letters written down on a page. Those letters written down on the page are kalim, vessels, to reveal or. What's the or? The idea on the page. That's what they do. They reveal an idea on the page. And if I were to ask you what's on this page, and you told me 16 rashas, 12 shins, 4 lameds, so then you're a lunatic. Because that's not, I mean, that is true. That's what's on the page. But if that's all you know that's on the page, then you really don't understand very much. What's on the page? Well, on the previous page, there were 3 of 4 questions. It says Aleph Beis Gimel right there. Okay. On this page, so there was the 4th question in the beginning of the understanding of, based on the Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah, explaining the panemius of Tzara. So that's what's on this page. Now, what's the means of revealing that to you and I? Oisius. Letters ordered in a proper order, in a state of what you and I call tikkun. Fixedness, proper order. And it all makes sense. And therefore, interestingly enough, we don't even notice the letters, right? Per se. We notice the words, the sentence, the idea. In English, I mean, the Hebrew, this doesn't work at all. In Lashon HaKodesh, it's exactly the opposite. But in English, and I remember someone posted this on the board in the yeshiva once. They put it up there. In Harvard Education School, so they wrote a page-long essay where every single word, the only letters that were in their proper place were the first one and the last one, and the middle letters were scrambled, and you don't even notice when you read the page. Because when you read English, you just look at it. Evidently what we do is we look at the first and last letter, and we know what word we're looking at. No one noticed. I mean, I remember it up on the board, and I remember that glass board outside Zal, just as you walked out of Zal to the left, there was that. So someone pasted on that glass board. Okay, now obviously in Lashon HaKodesh it's exactly the opposite, because the whole word is the 3-letter root in the middle of the word. The external letters are almost irrelevant. I mean, they help you know how to apply that idea, but the idea is the 3, so that wouldn't work at all. But you don't look at letters per se, you look at words, right? Okay. That's when they're in state of tikkun. Now, what if I broke them? If I broke the vessels? So that resh, or that aleph that Josh mentioned, that aleph is part of a word, and that word is din kasha, dinah. It's the aleph of dinah, that aleph. So it's part of a word, it's part of an idea. And it's bottled to that idea. And when it's in a state of tikkun, you don't notice the aleph, you just notice the idea. When I break the kelim, what does the aleph say? I am an aleph. What's he revealing himself? What doesn't he reveal? Anything else? That's shvira. That's tohu. That's chaos. That's the event that happens in a very, very powerful place in Kedusha, Olam HaTohu, way above Atzilus, way up there. Atzilus called Olam HaTikun, right? A very powerful level of Kedusha, but because of the shvira, that allows for that kedusha to come down into this world and express itself in a fashion of yeshus, a fashion of the opposite of kedusha. Because kedusha is bitter. Kedusha is the connection to source, and yeshus is the disconnection from source, where I'll simply posit my own existence. Yeah, the Rebbe does not say this here, it just happens to be interesting. Generally, it's understood that the Aveira responsible for tzaras is Lashon Hara. That's where I'm focused pretty powerfully on myself and degrading someone else so I'll feel better. But the Rebbe does not say that. Yes, separation, breaking of things. So, but etzim, it's a very high level. But it expresses itself in an extremely negative way.
So Shvirat HaKelim is the breaking of the vessels or breaking to the vessels?
Of the vessels. The vessels break. Therefore, when you experience reality, you experience a broken vessel. That's the aleph that's broken. Now, really, you have to break down the aleph to 2 yuds and a vav. Well, because that's what an aleph is. A real aleph is 2 yuds and a vav. So now you pick one eye, it says it's a yud, liar. He's pushing a liar.
Like unusable particles.
Okay. Alma the Shikra. He's lying. He's not a yud. He's the upper yud in an aleph. He'll tell you I'm a yud. That's a lie. That's sheker. I'm a sheker. It's not true. You're part of an aleph. But he's not interested in being part of anything. This little yud. right? That's that's when you read because in all fairness, in the mashal, so the kli is the oat, so I really have to break the oat itself. Okay, but we're talking about it. It's just easier to imagine.
And what is the name of this unusable particle, which is not clear?
What I have to it's called down here. It's called Yesh Nivra, created being, and you and I have to take that Yesh and put it back into a state of tikkun. What's the muscle for that? Take a 1,000-piece puzzle. Pick up each piece. What does it say? I'm green. I'm yellow. I'm brown. I'm blue. Okay. When you put all the pieces together, what do you no longer see? Any of the pieces, you just see the big picture. And how do you, when you make a puzzle, how do you make a puzzle? Anybody here ever do puzzles?
Yeah.
My wife used to nurse children doing 1,000-piece puzzles. That was like what she used to do when she nursed our children. She would sit there and have a puzzle. Because I guess, nursing, you'd like just sort of sit there, right? There's no, okay, so there's not much you can do. So what do you do when you do a puzzle? First things first, what do you do?
The border.
Borders. You find the four corners and the edges. That's easy. Then what do you do?
Similar colors.
Divide them up into colors. Beautiful. Now you've got the colors. You've got the blues here, and the yellows here, and the greens here, and the browns here, and the purples over here. And you've got the borders. There's a pile of the borders over there, and you put the four corners. You're not sure which, but I mean, probably the one with blue is the sky, and it's at the top, and the ones with green and brown is the bottom. Okay, fine. You figure that out. And then what do you do before you start putting it all together?
Look at the picture.
Oh, you look at the picture on the box.
Cheating.
No, that's not cheating. I don't know. You bought it with the picture on the box. It is not cheating. You've seen the picture already. The reason you bought it was you looked at the picture and saw Ravensburger 1000. So you bought it. Okay, fine. What's the picture on the box? How do you know where to put the pieces of reality? There's a picture on the box. It's called the Torah. The Torah tells you where all the pieces fit. How do you know what to do with that piece of time called the 15th of Tishrei? How do you know where that piece of time fits?
According to the calendar.
But I look in a calendar, 15th of Tishrei. How do I know what's the 15th of Tishrei? What do I know? Because the Torah tells me on the 15th of Tishrei, you're supposed to take a green stick and a lemon. And I would never know that if the Torah didn't tell me where that piece of time fits in the big picture. I would never know. How would I know? Okay. So this world is a giant jigsaw puzzle, and we're trying to put together the big picture. And the big picture is Elokus. The big picture is Mashiach. The big picture is Dir B'Tachtoni. That's the big picture. And we're trying to put the pieces together. And we have to know where the pieces fit. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. Sometimes we'll be very, very sensitive to what's happening around us and maintain an awareness of the fact that this is also a little piece of the puzzle, and I have to figure out how to use this piece of the puzzle successfully and productively such that I'm putting it where it goes in the big picture, and I'm helping make the big picture come to a state of revelation. Or I can just, think that I'm not doing anything, but everything we do is relative to that big picture. We're basically at the state, based on these Sichas, one of them we're learning now, we're at a state in reality where basically the whole puzzle is done, all the pieces are there, there's one piece where the picture has separated from the cardboard, right? And we keep pushing it down and it keeps popping up, and as soon as we get that piece to stay down, Mashiach comes, and we're just like, it's all done. Okay, well, let's go for it. Yeah.
You said what of Sorash was Lashon Hara?
The source of tzarat is because I'll explain. The source of tzarat is lashon hara. Now, not only, but
That's why
obviously, there's a higher level to it because we're talking here about someone who's on a very, very high level. And so we don't get tzaras, as we talked about yesterday. Why not? Well, we're not on the level where this will happen to us. You have to be on a very, very lofty level for this to happen, where this negative reality is the only negativity in your whole being. And so it expresses itself in this incredibly external way because everything else has been taken care of. That's what the Rebbe taught us yesterday, which is really quite astounding.
Miriam's an example.
What?
Miriam was an example.
Miriam got tzaras, b'diuk. Right. For saying something relatively innocuous, right? But if you're Miriam, it's not. If you're where Miriam is, it's not. Sarah laughed when she was told she was going to have a child. For Sarah, that was a completely unreasonable thing to do. Avram Avinu laughed, he wasn't chastised. Because he wasn't on the level of Sarah. Sarah Menu was chastised. Because she was on the level that the Mittler Rebbe discusses there, on his pipers, beyond ecstasy. She was so aware of godliness in every activity, so there was no better or worse, more or less. She was beyond ecstasy. So then when she laughed, the Rebbe said, you laugh? That means you've descended from your higher level down to a lower level. Everybody else would laugh. Why wouldn't you laugh? You're 90 years old and you're told you're going to give birth to a child. That's a rather nice thing. Okay. Because she said I didn't laugh, meaning I didn't laugh. The Abish said you laughed. She understood that meant you're doubtful. She said, no, I'm not doubtful. I didn't laugh that way. She said, yeah, but you laughed. What kind of argument is this? You did. Sorry, Meinu and HaKadosh Boruch, and it's in the Torah. Okay, let's go. Kavan shin the goyim him be'etzim, last paragraph on page 155. Since these afflictions are be'etzim devarim gevoyim eretz elyonim, very lofty things, lochen gam kishnishtal shel mehem, even when it emanates downward from them, inyan bilti ratzui, something undesirable, al yedei, through yenikas achitzonim, through the nourishment of the chitzonim. In other words, physical reality might bring this very lofty state into a less than positive expression down here in the world of Klippa. It's only something external. Shenegeya only touches negia bilvad, in the lower levels. B'seif levushav, in the end of his garments, bilvad. In other words, what Moshe said, the two things are tied together. V'lochen. I'm going quickly because we know we have limited time. Lochen, gam today, but b'chlal. Gam, hatikun al zeh. How do we fix this? It's very interesting. It's amazing. Taras ha-Metzora. The second part is all about the purification of the Metzora. How do we fix it? It's not by revealing some new state of reality. Elo al yedei gilui inyonim hamiti shel hanegoyim. What has to be done? You have to reveal the true source in kedusha, in holiness of the nego. That shehem eretz elyonim, that they're really a very powerful level of godly reality. They're just being expressed in this world in a negative way, but in truth, it's something very, very powerful. Where do we see that? Kemerumas b'loshen hakosav, the first pasuk of the second parsha. Zeis tia teres ha-Metzora b'yom tarasa. That's the verse. How does the Rebbe explain it? Shetarasai, what is the purity of the tzaras? What's it dependent on? He al yedei yom. It's dependent on yom. What's yom? Yom is revelation. Shinyane or v'gilui, light and revelation. When you reveal the true nature of the tzaras, it turns into a state of Torah. Just like in a more general state, if you reveal the true nature of physical reality itself might, I think it does, right? I think most of us experience that it hides elokus. Okay. The word olam means concealment. Helam. That's what an olam is. Right? It's a place that hides the Eibishter because it posits its own existence. Not necessarily in a state of tremendous yeshus, because Eilam Abriya is also an Eilam. Eilam Atzilus is even an Eilam. Okay, but what does Eilam Atzilus hide to a certain degree? The unity of Hashem, because after all, there's a revelation of 10 spheres. Right? What does Eilam Abriya hide on some level? The fact that there's nothing but Hashem. Because after all, there's a malach there. The malach is translucent, so you can see the godly light vitalizing the malach. Okay, but there's still a malach. There's still some state of existence that isn't the Eibishter, so to speak. Okay, down here in Elam Hazeh, you don't see the light, you don't see anything. Complete concealment. And yet, what can you do with that physical reality? reveal what its true source is, and what's its true source, Elokus, so you can use that physical object for Kedusha and transform it into a davar sheba Kedusha. You can actually turn it into something that has Kedusha. We talked about that in terms of the pieces of paper you guys are looking at. Piece of paper these pieces of paper have no Kedusha. These ones here. They're a picture of a book. The book has Kedusha. This is a picture of a book. Right? It has no Kedusha. That means theoretically, if I wanted to, I mean, we don't, but we could, la locha, put it in the garbage. There's no Shem Hashem on it, right? If it has Shem Hashem, so then it's holy. Right? It has no Shem Hashem. It's Torah, but it's just a picture of Torah. So, Lamaisa, you could throw it in the garbage. Meaning if something happened when you were copying it and half the page ended up all messed up, so you don't have to put it in Geniza. You can put it in the garbage. Usually we put it in Geniza anyway, but you can put it in the garbage, la locha. What if someone learned from it? No. That has to go in Geniza.
You can't do it.
Right now, the ones you have transformed those pieces of paper from a piece of paper into a davar sheba kedusha, something holy that can't be thrown away in the garbage. How did you do that? You got a mitzvah with it. Learning Torah. You've elevated. It's in a different metaphysical state because of your action. Okay. So we can do that. I mean, but you've connected it to its source in Kedusha. That's what you and I do with physical reality, hopefully. Commercial Kosov, like it says, V'yikra Elokim la'ur yom. So we say is all about, yom is all about ur. So what's the Tara of Metzora? Shalom, has that got to do with this class, or is that something else?
It's directly
Well, if it's connected, so fine. Well, I remember, teaching in a school once, a particular school where everybody was very learned and they all had computers. They sit in class with their computers. I always basically figured that half of them were watching movies on the computer, and I never knew. But I did know. But you couldn't tell. So you always get nervous about these little plastic things that we have. What can happen? How do you turn saras into tara? Yom, reveal the true nature of it, and mamela, it becomes something holy. It's cancelled, it's nullified, the nourishment of external reality, which is what's responsible for its external expression in a negative way, such that it can actually be the opposite of purity, even if that's only in an external way, but still it's expressing itself that way. That is also undone. So how do you transform it from one state to another? Reveal what it really is. Ubira inyan, the explanation of this thing. The reason for the possibility. Now, Yanika Sechitzana, Yanika Yonek means to nurse. Yanika is nourishment, meaning external reality bringing about a negative revealed state. Okay, that's Yanika Sechitzana. The fact that this world can allow everything comes from Yebishter. This world is a place where godly energy can be expressed negatively. That's a function of the world. That's not a function of the true nature of godly energy, right? So, and what's the source of that godly energy that can be expressed negatively? Actually, it's a very high place. It's called Ha'il Matayu. It's a very, very lofty place. It's very, very serious. That's why negative energy in this world is so unbelievably powerful. Right? On a certain level, it seems much more powerful than holy energy. On a certain level, it is. Right? That's why transforming it is such a powerful way to bring about the revelation of God. Now, that does not mean a person who's looking for a way out could therefore say, so all the negativity is really an incredibly powerful level of godliness, so I'll just get into the negativity because that's really a positive level of God. Right, that's okay. That's called Shabsai Tzvi. That's where he was holding it. That was his whole thing. Right? And he destroyed the world. He did unbelievably terrible things, brought about catastrophes in the Jewish people. Right? Meaning if you decide to outthink God, God said, don't do this. And he means it. But I understand that really the source of that thing is from such a high level. If I do it with the right intention, I'm connecting to such a high level of godliness. No, you're not. You're destroying the world because God said don't do it. And there's no way of undoing that with your own crooked intellect. Right? Is it coming from a high place? Absolutely, 100%. Right? Is there any way for you to elevate it? No. Well, there is. Don't do it. Right? There's one way you can elevate that reality. Right? Why did the Abishter create that smug-nosed pink animal that we don't eat?
Oh.
So we can elevate it. How do we elevate it? Don't eat it. Now you can play football with it if you want, right? But I don't think they do anymore. But you could theoretically, but you can't eat it, and so you're elevating it by not eating it, right? There's very little you can do with that thing, so we don't have them around. Horses, you can't eat horses either. You can elevate a horse, hook it up to a wagon, and go to the Rebbe. That's what people did. You can elevate the horse by hooking up to a wagon and bring food to people. Hook it up to a wagon and make a living by taking people from one place to another place. You can do all sorts of good things with a horse. You just can't eat it. That way it's unelevatable. The reason that it's possible that this powerful godly light could be expressed negatively, to such an extent that it comes to a reality of hepech, the opposite of purity, in the revealed reality and in the external reality. And where does this come from? These very lofty lights, they're really coming from a very high place. Because of the great, powerful nature of these lights, they can't be clothed in vessels. That's the problem. They're too powerful. Chassidus, lights of chaos, like we talked about. Shalom, which is a very powerful place in Kedusha. But it can express itself in a very negative way in Elam Hazan. The example brought in Chassidus a lot are the Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. 24,000 Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva passed away during the time of Sir Zayman. Right? Okay. Why'd they pass away? It says, Lo nagu kavod lezeh lezeh. They didn't treat each other with proper respect. They were nasty to each other? No, absolutely not. How could they be called Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva if they didn't have Avos Yisrael? What's Rabbi Akiva's most famous statement? Right? Love your fellow like yourself. That's the whole Torah. Right? Okay, so you can't be a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva if you don't love Jews. Then you're not a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva is someone who loves Jews. Right? So, and these people are called in Torah Talmid of Rabbi Akiva. So they weren't nasty to each other. What was the problem? Aris the Tayu. That what happens in Tayu? The light is so powerful, it can't accept the existence of anything else. Meaning, Chesed, the light of Chesed in Tayu, is such a powerful expression of the Midah of Chesed of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the quality of Chesed, loving kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that it can't imagine the existence of any other expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, it can't in any way, shape, or form be in a state of harmony with Gvura, the opposite of Chesed. So they break each other. The Talmidim Rabbi Akiva, what's Chassidus explain about them? They were so powerfully connected to their understanding of what it is that Rabbi Akiva was teaching. And their love for their fellow was so powerful that they couldn't imagine that he also wouldn't have the same understanding, because if he doesn't, then chas v'sholem, he's not as close to the Eibishter as he should be. And I care for him and want him to be close to the Eibishter. Therefore, they didn't necessarily give each other the respect that they were due, that each of them could have a slightly different, nuanced understanding of Rabbi Akiva, and they didn't make room for the other one's different opinion. But where was it coming from? Unbelievably powerful Avos Yisrael. They couldn't stand the fact that this Jew wasn't as close to the Eibishter as he could be, because he's such an amazing person. Wow. So it's coming from a very, very high place in Kedusha, but it's expressing itself in a disastrous way in Elam Hazeh. Because they weren't no good covered, it doesn't say they didn't get along. They didn't treat each other with respect. What does respect mean to a certain degree? Allowing someone else to have an opinion that isn't quite the same as yours. Right? So the Rebbe explains the whole story of Rabbi Akiva. Because it can't be they didn't have Ahavas Yisrael, else they're not Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva. That's what Rabbi Akiva is. So what's it all about? They can't be expressed properly. Shalamayla mislavshus bekelim de tikkun. The eras of Tayu that are beyond being clothed in kelim of tikkun, in the vessels of fixedness. It's the kli that allows for the proper expression of the Ur. Right? Shemehem nishtalshalu. From there they've emanated downward. La'achrei hashvira, after the breaking. Kol inyonim abilti ritzuyim. Every undesirable state of reality comes from that place, where the light can't be expressed in a positive, fixed way, so to speak. And so it expresses itself negatively. Because once it's too powerful to be expressed, so then by definition the expression is going to be negative. And again, that's also children help us understand these things. Anybody who's ever hung around children knows that once the hysteria in the room gets a little out of control, what sound do you know you're going to hear within the next 2 or 3 minutes? Someone crying, idiot. Too much, it's all positive energy. It's kids playing together and having a blast. Someone's going to get hurt. Right? That's what's going to happen. But when you hear adults in a room who are, laughing at something, in a rather normal way, not in some hysterical way. Okay, I said you don't expect that all of a sudden someone's going to come out of the room crying. That's not going to happen. Right? No, they're just, someone said something that was funny and they laughed and they're having a good time and, they'll get on with whatever happens next. The Inyan B'Avedus Adam. What is this in the Vayt? Now, it happens to be interesting. We mentioned that this Sicha happened 9 days after the famous Sicha of Chav Ches Nisan, where the Rebbe said, I've done everything I can do to get you involved in bringing Mashiach, and now it's up to you. The Rebbe did not say, I've done everything I can do to bring Mashiach. He didn't say that. If you look at the Sicha, that's not what he said. He said, I've done everything I can do to arouse in you a desire to bring Mashiach. Now you have to do it. Okay. The Rebbe said, one of the things that has to be done is Uris of Tayu have to come into Kelim of Tikkun. The Rebbe said in that Sicha. No one understood what the Rebbe was talking about. Well, 9 days later, the Rebbe now is talking about it. He's explaining what it means that Geula is based on Aris of Torah coming into Kelim of Tikkun. That's what we're learning right now. The explanation of that line in that Sicha, which no one understood when the Rebbe said it. I mean, it might be Rav Yoel understood it, but your average person walking around was wondering, what did the Rebbe mean when he said Aris of Torah Kelim of Tikkun? What was that? Right? V'inyan b'avedus ha'adam. Ha'eres el yonim, these high, lofty lights, she'enim mislabshim b'kelim, that aren't clothed in kelim, pelim tenua shel ritzoi. They might cause a tenua, a movement of ritzoi. What's ritzoi? Ritzoi is a desire to leave behind all physical reality and connect to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right? Not of an aviv. Ritzoi, a desire to get so close to the Eibishter that they reach a state of what's called, the Rebbe in the next line, Kleisa Nefesh, Shuinyan Kleisa Nefesh, the destruction of the soul. Meaning that they leave behind the world of Kelim and they want to connect to the Or so powerfully. Shekola Tichle Or HaNefesh, V'tistalak Mina Kelim, that it will be done away with. It's not so much done away with. It'll reach such a state of power, the Or HaNefesh, V'tistalak, it will leave the Kelim. Miyut HaKelim, the diminishing of the Kelim, Shaloye Bechinas Yispashtus Lamata, that there won't be an expression below. Because what are the Kelim? The Kelim allow, on one hand, Kelim obviously conceal Elokus, but on the other hand, the Kli is all about revelation. Right? We've talked about it so often. Right? That a Kli reveals reality, okay, but it reveals finite reality and hides infinite reality. So the blue on this bag reveals the blue in light, but it conceals every other aspect of light. Light has, for all intents and purposes, an infinite amount of, it can express itself in an infinite amount of color, because it contains within it that ability, that potential. Okay, what does this do? Hides that in light, and you would think that light is blue. And if everything in this room were blue, we wouldn't have any understanding whatsoever of light being anything but blue. Right? Okay. So a kli will reveal finite reality, and it hides infinite reality. Elo, so the person wants to leave behind that finite reality and connect to the infinite. El listalek lamaila, to go above, likalel, and to be incorporated ba'er Hashem. Umizeh yochel liyas inikas achitzonim. And from this there can be negative, a very negative expression. How is this expressed in everyday reality? One of the things that Chassidus teaches us about davening, if a person davens properly, he's probably going to experience a pretty serious ritzoya, a pretty serious elevation beyond physical reality. What should that person do immediately after davening? He should learn something. Bring it down into a kli. Otherwise, what might happen? Hakpada. He'll be very, very judgmental of other people, how they're not on such a high level. Din kasha. And often people who are themselves seemingly very spiritual are very, very lacking in patience for people who they think aren't. It's klipa. Where's it coming from? Very powerful connection to Allah. But that if it's not expressed properly, it'll express hakpada on other people. Mm-hmm. So a person will take upon themselves some aspect of kedusha. It's kedusha. It's holy. It's good. And someone else didn't take that upon themselves. He might think that person is inferior. So from his positive act comes klipa, something negative. You're not better than that person. You're not better than them, right? Are you doing something that's good? Yeah, you're definitely doing something that's good, but that in no way, shape, or form should turn me into someone who can now judge someone else. Why am I taking something positive and turning it into a negative expression? Well, that's exactly what Aristotle will do. Very, very powerful light, but it'll express itself in a negative way. This person's very powerfully connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They've worked on themselves a lot, and they've really progressed in Kedusha. If one of the expressions of that is they look down at people who haven't done that, so then that's what came out of it. Klipa came out of it. That doesn't take away anything positive about their avodah. Their avodah is still positive, but it also is interesting at producing something very negative. It's really quite astounding. Machma she'ein, that's why we should learn after davening, to bring the or down into a kli so that we don't start yelling at people at breakfast. Machma she'ein nimshach b'china sheiv b'kelim. There's no return back into the kelim, oisius to kedusha, and into letters of kedusha. In other words, a proper expression of this very powerful spiritual reality. Have to bring it back into sheiv. That's what's so astounding about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai and had a chavrusa with the Kadosh Baruch Hu for 40 days. And he said he was going to come back here. You would do that? Why would you want to come back here? So the bittel's not in the ritzay. The bittel's in the sheiv. That I'll actually go back into... And what was waiting for him down here after he finished his 40-day chavrusa with the Eibishter? Egel Azav. Golden calf. Ugh, fair. Welcome to Elam Hazeh. Welcome back to Elam Hazeh, Moshe. Right? Why in the world would he come back? Just forget them. Who needs them? I'll just stay here and learn with the Eibishter. Other the most amazing thing about Moshe Rabbeinu is his sheiv. He comes back. And that's bittul. What's missing? It's not the idea of bringing this back into kelim, into Eisius of Kedusha, into a positive expression. Therefore, from this transcendent state alone, yochel listaif, what can come out of it? Listaif is like a sif. A sif is a part of a sif aleph, sif base, sif gimel. I don't know what you say in English. What? Yeah, it's a little smaller than a chapter usually, but yeah, subsection, section A, section B. right? What can come out of it, come from it? Yochel listaif yenikas achitzanim, something negative. Kamei she'achar hislavus. Now the Rebbe says it. Achar hislavus betfilo. Imena isik b'Torah. If he doesn't involve himself in Torah, yochel isavis mi islavus. What can come out of the excitement of tefillah? Bechinas dinim, kapeido. He's makbid on other people. Kas, anger. He doesn't have patience for other people. Why? Because he's so holy. Umizeni starf gamken yesh v'gashus. Become very impressed with himself. So what does he have to do? He has to bring all of that energy back down into kelim and express itself in a positive way. How do we do that? Basis of Torah. The kelim of kedusha. 2 more minutes and we'll stop. Ve'etzel lezeh k'maimer zalim ratz libcho. If your heart runs, sheiv le'echad. Return to echad. Meaning, if you're in a state of ritzay, you're in a state of tremendous upliftedness, don't forget to come back. Not even a view, forgot. After the ritzay, tzarich liyeh sheiv, as we come back. Shuin in a bittul. Sheiv is the bittul. If it's about my spiritual experience and my spiritual upliftedness, so I'll stay up there. But if it's about what the Eibishter wants, so I'll come back down here. And the last thing the Eibishter wants is for me to treat other people as inferior to me. That's the most antithetical to God reality imaginable. So I understand that person is less created by God than you. The language in Chazal is his blood is less red than your blood. Have you achieved something? You've achieved something very, very special through hard work, 100%. Okay, kol hakavod. So if you're really into it, share it. No, I can't share it because then I won't be better than everybody else. His famous joke in Purim that one Rav sees his friend, another Rav, and says, I found the perfect Evyan. I found an Evyan. Evyan is a very poor person, and we know on Purim, one of the things you're supposed to do is Matanas Levyan, you're supposed to give charity to poor people. She says, I found the perfect Evyan. He fulfills all of the deis of all of the Rishonim and the Achronim of what constitutes a poor person, so you can be Mekayim, the mitzvah of giving this person on Purim the best way possible. So the other Rav says, "Whoa, amazing! Who is it? I can't tell you. If I tell you, you'll give him. He won't be an Evyan when I give him." Right. Shalachrei ritzei tzarich le'shev shuin in a bittul ad lebittul b'metzias until he's completely battle she'ein lo yikayach klal li'spayil b'rish ve'esh b'bechinas yesh v'davar. Let's go through this quickly. The Rebbe is explaining that the person will come to a state where he doesn't, his own, and this is a tzaddik, his bittul b'metzias, that he doesn't have the power at all to be excited with the rish ve'esh b'chinas yesh v'davar, such that his own spiritual elevation, his own spiritual experience, elu ke'evan daimim, he's like a rock. When the Eved comes in front of the Melech, what's he expressing? He's lavus. He's jumping up and down and dancing when he comes in front of the king. Well, might be dumb. State of complete bittul, silent. He doesn't move a muscle. That's how the middle Rebbe davens. Also, if you ever see a video of the Rebbe davening, the Rebbe doesn't move. He davens. When he's standing in front of the king, he's a completely empty vessel. He's been completely bottled b'metzias. Right? Now that's obviously a state that's beyond what we normally experience. Through this bittul, it'll come the return. To express itself in kelim, different vessels, lamata dafka, meaning, in other words, the person will express this tremendous feeling of closeness to God within the context of acting in the world in line with the will of the Eibishter, in physicality. And through this it's fulfilled the lofty purpose, the supernal purpose. The Eibishter wanted a dwelling place in the lower realms. And what's that? Outside the next paragraph? The shave brings about a clothing of the Eretz Elyonim and Kelim. That's the shave. So now, the more powerful the Ritzai, so the greater the possibility of not wanting to return. Okay, that's true. But then, of course, the more powerful the revealed through the return. Once that is revealed in Kalim, back in Elam Hazeh, so it'll be much more powerful. But there might be a havamina on the person, on the part of that person who's just experienced this tremendous revelation of the Eibush, just to stay where he is. I don't want to go anywhere else. No, the Eibush wants you somewhere else. Our Rebbe, the amount of time they spend with us is really quite astounding. They have better things. Well, they don't have better things to do. They have other things to do. They have other things they could do. Sit around Torah all day. Bring about supernal unifications. Do whatever so they can do. Instead, what do? Stand and give us dollars. Come and teach us Torah hours on end. Baruch Hashem. Where would we be without that? But mitzad them, what do they need that for? Moshe Rabbeinu has to come down and deal with the Jewish people again? My goodness gracious, I'm sure Moshe was so bottled that there was probably no such thought. But the idea that, why don't I just stay here? It's pretty nice here. Learning b'chavrusa with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is a chavrusa you don't argue with. I figure his pshat's probably a pretty good pshat. He lets me try to figure it out sometimes, but in the end, he lets me know what it is supposed to be. And the Eibush says, by the way, Moshe Rabbeinu, the people are serving idols and killing each other and acting promiscuously. Can you please go down and deal with that? Oh, wow. Can't wait to go. Comes down right away. Comes down right away. And what do Chazal tell us about Moshe Rabbeinu? What does it say? This is next week's parsha, because when Moshe comes down, where does he go? Ela'am. Moshe comes, every time Moshe is going up and down, the week before Matan Torah, so he's going up and down every day. So where does he go? He doesn't go home. When he comes down, he doesn't go to his tent. Wash his face, or I don't know, whatever you do after you finish talking to God. He goes straight to the Yam. Doesn't go to his own personal affairs, he goes straight to the Yam. It's Moshe Rabbeinu, Bittul. That's why it's such incredible kedusha there. Okay, we will go as far as we can go tomorrow, and then we'll do this when I get back. We're only missing one day. What?
This is a very fun Sicha.
Fun, I know, but it's amazing.
I have a question. So the creation was made by the words of God. So is the chaos the thought, or like the wordless thought?
It's all thought, and it's all dibur. The dibur is that the chaos is beyond the dibur. Right? It's in the realm of thought. That's true, but this world is also understood as b'machshava achas bara al mudah, one thought that the Eibush created the world. And when we use that mashal, when we use the mashal of dibur, just simply what is dibur? It's simply the revelation of thought outside of myself, so to speak. So that's the creation of a reality that seems to be outside of the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So yes, any level of reality above created worlds is not dibur per se. Okay, that's true. But the world is also understood as makshava. The panemius of it is all makshava. So yes, there is a level of makshava, but so is everything up there, so to speak. Makshava keduma da'ak. That's how we refer to the general desire for all worlds. It's called makshava keduma da'ak. Yeah.
What's the difference between